Arise Play, the #1 streaming channel from the heart of Africa. Celebrating Black talent and excellence in the world of entertainment. Blockbuster movies.
I make this look good.
Popular TV series.
Let the game begin.
Live music. Behind the scene action.
Head on over to Arise Play and let's get woke together. My new series Woke is exclusively on Arise Play.
Plus, so much more.
Yes!
What are you waiting for? Download the app. Or visit the website today to subscribe. Join a new world of entertainment. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.
Very warm welcome to this week. 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues and all the controversies around the world. I'm Somna Sambo. Our top stories. Nigerians demand new constitution, but the National Assembly says it has no such powers. We'll take a critical look at all demand by Nigerians during the ongoing constitution review public hearing. Plus, Nigerian government suspends Twitter operations as critics kick against such actions, saying it deprives citizens of their human and digital rights. Begin with the latest on the Constitution review. Nigerians who have submitted suggestions on how the Constitution should be amended are being asked to speak to their representatives. It's to ensure that lawmakers support issues the public want to see changed. Ehosa Egumbo explains.
Nigerians have shown they are eager to have a say in the future of the country. Many have submitted reforms they want to see made to the 1999 Constitution. But now, they are being asked to back that up by speaking to lawmakers. 4/5 of senators need to agree to propose changes for them to become law.
Whatever we do on your behalf. It is the people's constitution we're about to make. The mandate is yours. We're always standing here for you. But now let me tell you this. Whatever positions you've advocated, depending on how strong you feel about it, reach out. Now, having completed this exercise, reach out to your legislators.
It's the last day of the public hearing, and one of the major suggestions relates to former governors. Many groups want them to wait 4 years after leaving office before contesting a seat in the Senate. Others want citizenship to be granted automatically to any foreigner who marries a Nigerian woman.
The present constitution is an illegitimate child, a child of bastardy. That is the problem. There is no amount of amendments that you can give to illegitimacy to make it legitimate.
And who said that Nigeria should be restructured? I think we should pay attention to this and give us a country where the people from the states can take care of themselves.
The income that is accrued by the federal government from 30%, I mean for oil and gas, is shared into 4 parts. The first is 30% derivation to the host community. There's 87% that remain. The next percentage go to the federal government of Nigeria. After that, the state government. After that, the local government. This is how Nigerian money is being shared. But what belongs to the host community, the 30% derivation, is given to the state government, is an error.
We're asking for women to be given 50% slot for senators, House of Rep, House of Assembly, councillors. We are not asking for 30%, 50%. Women are more than men.
Among the other demands made are more women in governance, the FCT too be made a state, and voting rights for Nigerians outside the country.
On this, we are now being joined by Arise analyst Professor Sam Amadi, who is the former special advisor to the Foreign Affairs Minister and formerly a fellow at Harvard Carr Center on Human Rights. And also joining us is Ezekiel Dalhatu, coordinator of the Coalition of FCT Indigenous Groups. And via Zoom, we'll be having Samuel Adewusi, a representative of Nigerians in the Diaspora Organization. And let's just start with you, Samuel. What's your overview of what's been happening generally on this constitutional review? We've had several public hearings at the geopolitical zones, and then we've had a national one concluded here in Abuja, of which you made presentations. What's your overview of what Nigerians are asking for, including yours?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners and viewers. I think my overview is that it's generally a positive development, in that because I attended the zonal hearing in Lagos, and the quality of presentations in Lagos was totally top-notch. And then, I flew to Abuja, and especially on the 3rd of June, and the quality of presentations are very top-notch. And that shows a good development, and the fact that citizens and NGOs and all the stakeholders are ready to see a positive change regarding this constitutional review. Now, whether we will get the amount of number that will be necessary to pass some of these suggestions and recommendations and memorandums submitted is another thing entirely. Thank you.
And we come to you, Ezekiel. You also made some submissions here and there. You've been at the public hearing at the geopolitical zones level too. What's your general overview of this assignment by the National Assembly, and whether Nigerians have faith in the entire exercise?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. To be candid, Nigerians are beginning to lose hope on the process. I'm just telling you the feedback because we're actually from the field and we're there with people. Some are casting so much aspersion on the exercise, even though a majority of people still have the confidence. People like us still have confidence that this National Assembly may do something differently. Because if you look at this process, some people who want to see it as like a shenanigan, because 8th Assembly came, 7, now 9th Assembly, you could visibly come to say this is a better portion of the constitution that have actually been successfully amended. And so many persons, like someone was saying when we are at the International Conference Center, as if there is a budget somewhere and so people want to clear the funds and all of that. So to be candid, Nigerians are having a mixed feeling about the whole exercise, even though people like those have confidence in the National Assembly that they will deliver.
Okay, let's go to you, Prof. Your overview generally about all of this. Some people have also said, just like he has said, that this alteration is not what we need. We need a brand new constitution, but the National Assembly has said they don't have the powers to do that. And then all these public hearings across geopolitical zones and the national one here.
Sure, I mean, they're right to say they have no power to create a new constitution in the form they are, but they can trigger a process for that. But again, I think I share his cynicism about outcomes. I mean, we've had this is the 5th constitutional amendments session, and that means for every administration that's been won, it was only the Buhari administration that didn't do in the first tenure, and now is doing. Okay, so question is, what have we achieved? We have achieved changes of electoral deadlines. Election will hold on 14th or 14th, 16th. So we basically succeeded in spending money, achieving things that ought not to be in the Constitution. So the basic challenge of the Constitution in terms of what the Constitution is about, the distribution of power, physical revenue, creating opportunity for productivity at the communities, which is part of Nigerian problem. We have become a consumption country. We are sharing allocation. There's no constitutional framework for wealth creation at local levels. None of those have been altered. So basically, the skepticism here is, look, after going through this Jambori, or if some say this session, whether you say it's a Jambori or you say it's rigorous, you come back to basic electoral legislative process. The question is, will these more controversial, more impactful provisions pass legislative muster? From history, it will not pass. So primarily, some people can cynically say, well, this is about retiring the budget. Every National Assembly has a huge budget for constitutional amendment, and the you really need to go around the country if you want to amend those things. That still go through 1/3 or 2/3 or 3/4 of legislative members to pass through.
Okay, so let me just come to you, Samuel. There have been these calls for this constitution to actually be discarded. The constitution review should be discarded and a new one brought into place. And a lot of the lawmakers have said that they don't fully have the powers to do that. Considering your experience in the diaspora, have we seen things like that happening of recent? I know we've had other countries doing that in the past, but in recent, have we had any of such experiments that Nigeria can actually borrow from? Sorry, we actually can't hear you. So let me just come back to you, Prof. Do we have
sorry about that. I think I put myself on mute. My apologies. So can I go now or just
go ahead very quickly?
Okay. Yeah. Like I was saying, I said, to the best of my information and belief, I don't think so. Where you have an existing country, throwing out the existing constitution and creating a new one now. That being said, you have the situation in South Sudan and other countries in Europe when they were breaking up, where they have to totally rewrite the new constitution. That is what you have. But if Nigeria is supposed to be a country, the question is, if you throw this one out, what happened between the gap? Do you go ahead and just totally rewrite a new one while this one is being, upgraded? And then, bring that one in. But like you said, you still have to have a framework. And according to the deputy, Senate President, Omar Agege, he said that, according to, probably, if I'm not quoting him wrongly, he says Section 9 does not allow them or give them the power to do so. So therein lies the issue that we face in this country.
All right, thank you. Just hold on there. We'll have to go on a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue, gentlemen. We'll be taking a look at the latest on the review of the National Constitution, especially the specific demands by groups here and there. Stay with us until we come back from the break. Welcome back to This Week, where we hold the best of analysis and conversations. I'm Somna Sambo. Now, some groups are asking the National Assembly to put in place a constituent assembly that will allow for a referendum that will birth a new constitution, while the Arewa Consultative Forum says it's against the creation of more states in the country. It also approved state police. Also, while the Nigerians in the diaspora are asking for 3 senatorial seats and 10 House of Representatives seats in the National Assembly, the natives of the Federal Capital Territory are seeking a state status for the nation's capital, Abuja, to allow them enjoy equal rights like other Nigerians, while others are calling for fiscal federalism and autonomy for local governments. Well, let's take a listen.
We need to publicly agree a constituting of a representative new constitution conference. We need to inaugurate a national conversation to agree the participation, the process, and the agenda issues for the new constitution. We need to then complete the national conversation and distill it into referendum items for all citizens to vote on.
The creation of states, we appreciate that at the moment most states are unviable, but at the same time there are also agitations for most states. We feel, the ACF believes that while there should be a consideration, whatever is done, the present ratio of states between the north and the south should be maintained. We believe that there should be a mayor for FCT who should be elected, but subject to the fact that the president should remain the overall boss.
While other Nigerians in the northwest, in the south, in the east are saying we want secession, we want to go our separate way, the FCT people are saying include us, include us, include us. And I wonder why we cannot just look at the FCT people who have genuineness and belief in one Nigeria, because we are the center of the nation.
Right, still in the studio with me are Professor Sam Amadi, Arise News analyst, and Ezekiel Dalhatu, coordinator of Coalition of FCT Indigenous Groups, and joining us via Zoom is Samuel Adeusi, a representative of Nigerians in the Diaspora Organization. You know, a lot of people were actually taken aback by your agitation there, and you got lots of applause from the audience when you were talking about, passionately about how FCT Indigenous people want to be in Nigeria, but others are trying to run away from the country, asking for separatism and all of that, but you seem not to be listened to by the government. What exactly are you asking for?
It's really unfortunate that what's happening to us in FCT with some form of treatment of disdain and then relegating us to the background is actually uncalled for. And then just like I was saying, I tried to figure out what is actually the reason. Because before the coming of the Federal Capital City, there were human beings here. There were citizens, over hundreds of communities. We had then about 820 something communities existing, and we're living fine. There is nowhere, nobody can present any paper where the natives of Abuja then wrote an application applying that it should bring the capital city to us. It was imposed on us.
Yeah,
and
but
even
you're already receiving support, like from the Arewa Consultative Forum.
Yes,
saying that, look, they feel that some things have been done against the people, and they need an elected governance, for example.
Yeah,
now.
because that's all we're asking for now. There are so many other things bedeviling us, but what we need first and foremost is that second-tier government, so that we'll have government for the people, by the people, and of the people. Because what we're having now is just a kind of an authoritative, a kind of military. We are still experiencing military kind of regime, the people of FCT, because number one, we don't have the governor that we elect. Anytime Nigerians are going for governorship election, we sit at home. We do not have the second tier. Imagine our budget, the budget of the people of FCT goes to National Assembly. The Constitution said the entire National Assembly shall serve as the House of Assembly for the people of FCT. 109 senators, 360 House of Representatives should serve as House of Assembly for the people of. Where is it done? The 108 senators, I don't know them.
Well,
I only have one.
They're asking for mayoralty. Is it mayoralty that you want, or you want a state?
All we need is second-tier government. If like we have, like I was making submission, in New York, in the US, they have mayor for just a city. In FCT, if you say mayor for FCT, where you have mayoral council, by what we mean, there should be an executive officer who is in charge of us, and he's been elected, and he has a legislative council that will take care of the legislature for the people of the FCT. So you call it states, because I know they are afraid, because if you check the constitution, the modality to create states is something else. And I put it to you, there is no state that has ever been created under democracy.
Okay, let's just hold your thoughts there. And let me come to you, Samuel. You are asking for 3 senatorial seats and 10 federal constituencies for Nigerians who are living in the diaspora. How feasible is that actually?
Well, let's look at it this way. You have over 17 million people who are living in the diaspora. Take for example, if you look at Nigerians living in the West, in the West African portion of Nigeria, in Africa, it is a lot of people. So let's say, for example, what is the population of Lagos State? Lagos State itself probably going to about 15 or 17 million. And it is one of the most populous states. If you look at the population of Kano State, the same thing. But if you go back and look at the population of Katsina or Zamfara, or any of those states, the population of the diaspora of Nigerians living in the diaspora is actually more than, if you put 2 or 3 Nigerian states together, it's more than that. Not only that, the diaspora sent in and remitted over $22 billion every day. Look at this, the World Bank, the famed World Bank and the United States and EU, they don't, whenever they talk about, giving you aids and, talking about giving, Africa aids like a handout that we get, seriously, it's not even up to 10% of what the diaspora remits back home. Now, without any string being attached, unlike the one that Europe and America normally gives to, Nigeria. So what we are saying is that the diaspora should be treated like 37 states.
Okay, what kind of support have you been receiving from lawmakers? Because some Nigerians have said that this was wishful thinking, that there's no how you can get these 3 slots in the Senate and then the 10 House of Reps, that you may get voting rights, but you may not be able to get these seats.
We are not asking, that is the beauty of this. When we, make this proposal, we are still about to go back and, talk to some of our legislators and let them understand, getting the voting rights. Let me tell you this, all right? The voting rights doesn't do us any good, just like the people in the FCT. When they get voting rights, it doesn't do them that much, it doesn't give them that much, representation. So we vote for the same, senators that are there right now. We vote for the same, House of Reps that are there right now. Yeah, we got voting rights, but we cannot change anything unless we have somebody that will actually represent the interests of the diaspora.
Right, we must thank you so much, Samuel Adewusi, who is a representative of the Nigerians in the Diaspora Organization. Thank you for joining us on this conversation. And I'll come to you, Prof. Very quickly, in all of this, you've heard these demands by these 2 groups who made presentations there. How feasible do you think it is for some of these demands to be met by the lawmakers?
I think it's too difficult for me to say what I'm saying, but that's true. I mean, the demand by the diaspora doesn't make any sense. And I tell you why. I'm a champion of the diaspora right to vote. The diaspora have no different, unique expectations in democratic accountability that people in Nigeria don't have. I mean, the diaspora is fluid. People go from Imo State, they go to US, New York. So who are they representing? Is it the diaspora in New York or America? It doesn't follow. Not even one seat. But again, the critical question is the right to vote. FCT is a big one we have to look at. Look at DC, the campaign to make a state divides Republicans and Democrats because it plays into who gets more seats. But I think the point here is, look, maybe a mayorate is the right thing to do in terms of giving them complete democratic accountability.
Okay, we just have to go on a break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Right now, you're still watching the Arise, this week on Arise News. Stay with us. You're still watching Arise News, and we are still taking a critical look at some of the demands by Nigerians generally in this ongoing constitutional review exercise. And I still have with me here Professor Sam Amadi, who is a Arise News analyst and a very strong scholar when it comes to constitutional issues. And of course, we have Ezekiel Dalhatu here, who is someone who deals with these issues of agitations for communities in the nation's capital, especially the FCT natives. And we will be having joining us right now Yinka Shotade, who is a public affairs analyst from our Overflow Studios. So let's just go back to you, Prof. These issues we were talking about, it's linked all to the issues of devolution of powers. The diasporans are thinking that they may actually tap into what is going on right now, but you have said that it's a little bit difficult for them to be treated like they are the 37th state. But there's been this agitation by the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum calling for inclusive governance, devolution of powers more to the states, saying that the 52% that the federal government takes home during revenue sharing is too much. That why should states be having just 27% and local governments 21%? That the federal government should be having 21%. What do you say about these calls for fiscal federalism, regionalism, and inclusive governance and all of that?
Thank you. I think the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum was a very auspicious gathering because it gives the federal government an opportunity to diffuse the security crisis in the states. For example, the notion driving this crisis is a sense of alienation. So we talk about inclusive governance, like they propose. It cures the problem of alienation. People feel that they are part of God. But more importantly, devolution of power. Really, the point about what they talk about devolving power is a sense in which we are more productive economy. So if people talk about the wealth of the 1966 Gaggenot pyramid in the north that funded the Northern Corporation, that gave us ABU, gave us some of the big institutions we have. In the southwest, the cocoa profit, that revenue that drove the cocoa house, the Lagos Western television and all that. Southeast, the fastest growing economy in the world in the 1960s, public libraries, cottage industries, because governance was taken back to the people. So they're talking about something closer to the 1960s constitution, which creates a true federalism, so that there's regional constitutions. Now, in this case, we have more than the 4 regions, okay, or 3-4 regions. It could be 6, it could be 12. But the model they're giving is a model that allows us to diffuse the centripetal forces that are driving us and create inclusion and then give people the capacity to govern. And then they're talking about devolution of power. The logic of the logic of zoning, which is what they're hinting at, is that, look, if you have inclusive governance, if you recreate people's space to manage themselves through federalism, then you make it zones so that each people have turns to govern the state in a structured manner. There'll be no crisis. Switzerland played that example. In Switzerland, they take turn. There's a prime minister, there's even deputies that are arranged according to zone. So each zone is a deputy, then they swap. So what the leaders are presenting to us is a way that power, the focus is not on power but on productivity, because you have allowed power to evolve, you've allowed power to be localized, and power now to devolve from time to time. So their heartbeat is first inclusive governance. They say go back to structuring. And by the way, it's not about only fiscal reform. It's about giving people the capacity to create their wealth.
Hear the issue of regionalism, but let's take that from Yinka actually before we come back to Ezekiel. Yinka, what do you make of the calls for that for Nigeria to go back to the 1963 constitution for regionalism to be allowed, and then even some of the funny suggestions such as the call for Nigeria to be renamed the United African Republic, UAR?
Well, like Prof said, as a people, if we take a very sound review of our history from 1960 or even pre-1960 till now, one period of our life as a nation that stands out the best and the most productive is the regional governance period. Regionalism is just the true way to go. That's the truth. Let regions, let people begin to collaborate. You see, when people talk about productivity of every state, yes, it's good, but even within a regional setting, there are provisions and opportunities for partnerships on issues like security, partnership on mutual economic issues among states within the region. So as far as I'm concerned, the only way we can thoroughly and absolutely unleash the strength of the region is by going the regional way. So going back to that part of our constitution is the right way to go. And for the diasporans, Well, I wish them well. I also want to second what the Prof has said. Aggregating views politically outside of votes to achieve what they have asked for is a bit Herculean, but what is more realistic for them to begin to make demands for now is their inclusion by the way of their voting rights.
Okay, let's come to you, Ezekiel. Though he didn't answer that other question on United African Republic, I saw it's something that was trending on Twitter before Twitter was eventually shut down. But let's talk about the devolution of powers. One of the presentations you made, which made me interested, is when you said that the president, when he's elected, on the day Nigerians elect him, he is also elected as a governor of FCT, and you want him to remove that powers and give it to a status, sort of, and then you are also saying that the National Assembly should remove its powers as being the National Assembly for the State Assembly for FCT and all of that, and be given to maybe a State House of Assembly for the FCT and all of that. How realistic is this agitation of yours for the devolution of powers in FCT?
Now, let me just go back to the preamble of our Constitution. If you do, I have said it. I said it that day that this letter of we, the people of Federal Republic of Nigeria, having firmly, solemnly resolved to live in unity, harmony as one indivisible and indissoluble sovereign nation under God, dedicated to promotion of inter-African solidarity, world peace, international war, and to provide for a constitution for the purpose of promoting, listen to this, for purpose of promoting good government and welfare of all persons in our country on the principle of freedom, equity, and justice, for the purpose of consolidating the unity of the people. See, the devil in all of these letters is in the implementation. The devil in this beautiful frame of letters of our Constitution, though not accepted by all, though not being resolved by everybody to say this is the document with her, is well fashioned. But the devil in it is in the implementation. Because what's happening is with these beautiful, well-dressed wordings of these letters from the preamble, where is the justice? Where is the equity? Where is the fairness? When you have people that are scheme out of the thing, of the happenings of this nation. The Federal Executive Council, for instance, is the highest decision-making body of this nation. And nobody from FCT is ever there to represent its people. So when you don't have people that elect their own leaders who will be responsible to them, who will be asked questions, then you leave them at their own mercy. For example, the president, if he will be fair to himself, President Muhammadu Buhari, who are holding high esteem, if he will be fair to himself, he has more than enough issues of this nation to handle, not to talk of doubling as governor of another section of people. And so how would somebody from Almamagi, Darka, Shere, Buhari assess Mr. President as his governor? You see the lacuna? And so we are saying, give us this power. Let it be low, because democracy is government for the people, by the people, and for the people. And so power resides with the people. But in the FCT, we don't have the power.
You don't have the power. Now, let's go to some of the agitations that we have also seen. The Arewa Consultative Forum actually said that they are in support of state police, but that there should be a commission that will actually ensure that state governors do not abuse it, and then they are kicking against the creation of new states. Considering, for example, that the Southeast doesn't have one state, and there was consensus at the national conference that the Southeast should be given one additional state. How do you juxtapose that?
I think, interestingly, I support that position clearly. I mean, the state police is a function of that federalism, that devolution, that sense in which you allow the people to determine themselves. Okay, but then the idea of a federal policing commission is a right one, because part of what we're going to get, if you get this way that the Southern leaders talk about and the Middle Belt leaders, is that you're going to have a federal constitution that provides for Bill of Rights like we have today. You're going to have regional constitutions that derive from that federal. Now the federal will control and say, even if you have a police, these are the common structures, so that those police doesn't become ethnic police. We have to differentiate two things. A region is not ethnicity. So, for example, if you say Eastern region, let's assume the old pattern, including Eastern State, Southeast State, and South-South, some of them. It's a region of diverse people. Now, the arrangement could be that they can create more states if they like. There will be a federal, regional constitution determining the relationship between them and those states. Creating also
so in other words, we will eliminate local governments.
Yes, or even if they can become like counties. But the power is shared between the federal and the regional. The regional define the state. So in that case, you don't need to create more states. In fact, some states should even come together. Some unviable
so
states
if they do,
could come together.
Won't you think that this will be depriving the southeast, which is agitating
Now,
right now,
look
of
at
that slot?
Very important question.
Because they are saying that they need one to make it six
If you're
like
going to
others,
run, if you're
except
going
for
to
the
run,
Northwest.
if you're still
That's 7.
Look at 2 points. If you're going to run this 1999 constitution through amendment, you need to give Southeast a constitution, a state, because equity. Because you're not running this 63 model. But if you go to 63, you don't need to create any more state, because what that means is that the Southeast become part of the Eastern region or whatever region you create, or Southeast region, whatever it is, okay? The relationship between them fiscally defined is equal. So they keep their 30% or thereabout as agreed. They give 20 to a common pool for sharing. They give X to the federal for maintaining common services. Doesn't matter if you have 10 states, you share it less.
Okay.
If you have 5. So the notion of state creation is a function of dysfunctional arrangement. Once you have that regional framework, then there's no need to fight for states.
Now, as we try to round off this conversation on the constitution review, I want to ask Yinka if indeed he's in support of the women who are asking for 50% parliamentary seats. They're asking for 50% seats in the Federal Executive Council and all of that. We had agreed as a nation that 35% was okay, but now they're asking for 50%. What's your view?
Well, that's the beauty of democracy. Their request is apt, although a bit difficult to get around. Because if you look at the demographics of the nation to start with, because that's the bias, that's the template of their bias, what would young people ask for that comprise over 60% of the population? Yes, at 30, 35, we're fine. But I think 50% is on the high side. But you see, again, like I told you, that's the beauty of democracy.
For Nigeria's name to be changed to the United African Republic. I just want each and every one of you to say one or two things about it. Very quickly, what's your view about that? Should we or we shouldn't?
Well, we should just remain as Nigeria.
Thank you so much. What's your own view about that?
If you want to change Nigeria, they make it United African Republics. So you have multiple republics coming together in one, maybe a kind of a new emirate. But I think the name is nothing. Nigeria is good enough. What we need is to deal with the fundamental issues of how to become a people who are guided by justice. And the idea is democratic citizenship. Let people run themselves, have rights.
Let's hear from you. What's your own view?
For me, the problem is not in the name, but in the people. So if the people of Nigeria will actually act Nigeria, there is no need changing the name. Because the name is not an issue, but the people in the country call Nigeria.
And so you think it's more of a leadership failure?
It's more of leadership issue.
All right, we'll just have to go on a short break now. When we return, we'll be taking a look at the latest on the Twitter ban by the Nigerian government after Twitter actually deleted the tweet of Mr. President. So stay with us. welcome back to This Week on Arise News. I'm Somna Sambo, and we've been having this fantastic conversation here with like minds here. I have in the studio with me Professor Sam Amadi, who's a Arise News analyst and a legal scholar. And then I also have Ezekiel Dalhatu, who is a spokesman and coordinator for the FCT natives here in the nation's capital, Abuja. And then in our overflow studio, we have Yinka Shotade, who is a journalist and a public affairs commentator. Well, earlier in the week, Twitter deleted a tweet from President Muhammadu Buhari where he threatened to treat Nigerians misbehaving in the language that they understand. President Muhammadu Buhari spoke about the experiences of the civil war and threatened to deal with those who he says are bent on destroying Nigeria through insurrection. Twitter deleted the message, noting that the tweet violated its rules. Twitter rules prohibit a number of actions from users, including violence, abuse, and hateful conduct. Buhari's tweets have caused an uproar on the social media platform. And what will the government do? Well, the government has suspended the operations of the microblogging and social networking service Twitter in Nigeria. A lot of Nigerians woke up this morning, Saturday, across the country to discover that they can't actually do anything about that after that suspension that was announced by the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. So we'll just go about it right now. Ezekiel, you make use of Twitter very well alongside other social media platforms here and there. How did you feel about the president's reaction and then, of course, the subsequent suspension of Twitter?
Actually, nobody will just sit and then say he's comfortable with it, even though government is all about having policies that they feel they will regulate the system and the people. I think he's not the first that a social platform will go to, like trying to do, like place a sanction. Where we are leading from, the US, I remember Donald Trump was suspending and all of that, and then the war didn't end. So I think for federal government to actually completely suspend the operation, for the youth, no youth will ever say he's applauding the gesture, because Twitter has been instrumental for communication. Yesterday I was seeing a jest, a kind of sarcasm, and to say that the announcement was actually made on Twitter as well. So
the same announcement
suspended. So all of this, but I think critically, maybe government may have their own reason, and what they should do now is to educate Nigerians the more, a reason why this has to be done.
Oh, okay. Now let's come to you, Yinka. As a journalist, do you think that the president is infringing on free speech and then, curtailing digital rights of Nigerians to have access to these platforms to say whatever they feel like? Or you think that the president was very circumspect in saying that his message, which he had sent, of which Twitter decided to delete, was prompt, apt, and instructive?
Well, without missing words, a direct infringement of the digital rights of Nigerians. I think what the government, there seems to be a lot of disconnect in this government. The government do not always seem to always carry out an action-consequence analysis balance. That action in itself, first, is an infringement on the rights of people to freedom of speech, is an infringement on the rights itself of the Twitter as a private organization who is governed by rules. And before you voluntarily subscribe to Twitter, you are given an agreement to sign, and you click agree before you go into it. Then that's from the action angle. From the consequence angle, the question is, what does Twitter do? One, this is the most used platform for government citizens interaction. Even the government use it. Secondly, this is a platform for commerce that is employing a lot of young people in Nigeria. That is also a platform on which a lot of people use to express their corporate social responsibility. On Twitter, you have Nigerians or corporate organizations who are well-to-do, giving impetus, encouraging entrepreneurial drive of young Nigerians. That is a platform where that has saved Nigeria, the bottling of the emotions of the young people. We're talking about over 60% of the population. You don't bottle that kind of population, because what will always happen is falls out like NSAS or a bust up or a fusion, as it is called in chemistry, when you forcefully diffuse a gas out of a cylinder. For me, if you must look at the consequence, the economic consequence, the political consequence, if you must also look at the social consequence, like the last speaker said.
Now let's hear what Prof is actually going to say about this. Let's look at the tweet first that led to the deletion by what's it called, Twitter and all of that. Was it right for President Muhammadu Buhari to have conveyed such a message through Twitter? Well, and do you think it's actually a kick-in against the rights of the country also to also superintend over Twitter?
Well, first thing is that, look, that statement shouldn't have gone. I've looked at the video. The video is better. The tweet failed all sense of responsible principal communication. So it was right, and Twitter rightly adjudged it false. The video was fine, okay, but the tweet, invoked a civil war, the troop of genocidal war, as a form of present-day action of state, which is forbidden. Second is that the reaction of the Nigerian government, I mean, deleting the tweet is not too much offense against a state, because which is what Twitter does often with even Trump before he was finally banned for. The same day, Twitter banned, Facebook banned Trump for 2 years, the same day. The same Twitter for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Facebook also deleting the Buhari's statement
too. It talked about consequence. The point, Nigeria has about 40 million subscribers, okay? Twitter moved to Ghana, that has 5 million only. On the ground that Nigeria is not an open society, that Nigeria is not amenable to protecting rights. And the Nigerian government has, by this overkill, kind of reinforced that statement. And then what does that mean to? It means increase in Nigerian risk, political risk in borrowing. MIGA will look at that. Nigeria profile, Nigeria will now be classified together with China is a big deal. Everybody knows it's not democratic, but everybody deals with China. Nigeria is a small deal.
Because the government says this same thing is being done in other countries where, for example, India at the moment, India is setting very tough and strict rules for Twitter.
But they're not banning Twitter. You see, the notion of ban is that's what this government lacks communicative ability and what to call argumentative state. Engage to Twitter. You've done wrong. File a complaint. File a complaint at FCT, Federal Trade Commission in the US, that oversees Twitter. Then you tell, look, so that it becomes an argument. You can even control use of Twitter. But the banning instinct is, or the authoritarian instinct that's going to damage Nigerians' investment. Nigeria is looking for $6 billion as loan. Nigeria is owing about 34 billion. And you're dealing with Twitter that has 50 billion asset base. And Twitter, whose members and sympathizers control the lending channel. That's
really, so it will affect them well.
It's bad.
Thanks so much, Professor Sam. Well, as we try to round off this conversation generally, I just want to get one point from you all, whether you trust the National Assembly's capacity to be able to give Nigeria a constitution that will be acceptable to everyone after this amendment exercise. Let's start with you very quickly in 30 seconds.
Sincerely speaking, under the leadership of Senator Omo Agege, the Deputy Senate President, who is the chairman, the energy I'm seeing in him, if only they will leverage on that and push on, we still have hope.
So FCT people have hope that something good can come out.
Yes.
Let's talk about you.
I pray for FCT people, but I don't have much hope. I trust the previous National Assembly. This National Assembly is tepid. It's not strong. It's not courageous. And the politics of this hour, we need to have a conversation rather than a constitutional amendment. So I support the call of the Southern Conference Forum and the Southern leaders and Middle Belt asking for national dialogue that will now precede eventual new or amended constitution. This is an exercise, in my view, in futility.
Okay, and then we'll go to you, Yinka. Especially the calls for a constituent assembly to be set up and all of that. In 20 seconds, do you believe in the ability of the National Assembly to give Nigerians a constitution that will be acceptable after this public hearings?
You said 20 seconds, so I'd rather just speak to the issue. The legislators should understand that good laws and policies are made with the people and not for the people. Constituent assemblies to engage more robustly with stakeholders, a national conference, a national dialogue to precede a process of proper review is apt.
We must thank you so much, Yinka Shotade, who's
putting an old wine
who is a journalist and a public affairs commentator. And then, of course, we must thank you, Professor Sam Ahmadi, who is a Rise News analyst and a law professor, and then Ezekiel Dalhatu, who is a member of the coalition of FCT indigenous people. Well, we must thank our earlier guest, Samuel Adewusi, who represented the Nigerians in the Diaspora Organization. And that's how it's been for this edition of This Week. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm Somna Sambo.